Welcome back to the WSXM channel. I don't know, my name is Teflon. So, recently there was a Russia Africa ministerial um, conference kept, and a few ministers from foreign affairs ministers was there in attendance. But the Mali foreign minister's speech was mind blowing because he explained everything what's happening in the Sahel nations with with Burkina Faso, Niger, Mali, how the IMF and the World Bank is trying to destabilize them, and how they're trying to use the media to paint false narrative about Burkina Faso. Anyway, listen to it in its entirety. It's in French, but I translated it into English, so you guys can get to understand what he's actually saying. And then it's self-explanatory. So I won't give them commentary, but take a listen to it and let me know what you think about it in the comment section at the end. Boom. I will start with two truths. The first truth is that Russia is not a colonial power. It has never been a colonial power. It has no colonial past. On the contrary, it has been on the side of African peoples and other people around the world to help them get out of the colonial system and assert their sovereignty. I think this is also one of the truths that we should continue to fight on our sides against neocolonialism and all forms of domination. The second truth is that colonialism left its order to stay better. Colonialism is not a thing of the past. Colonialism is over, but neocolonialism is still alive. In all the tools and preparation of the colonial system are still there, well in place. Unfortunately, with more subtle forms, but they are well in place. I think we have talked about certain tools. First, the political control of our countries has continued. Then there are the media. We have talked about it. Some media today have become weapons of mass destruction. Many of these former colonial powers have understood that it is no longer necessary to send armies, and that with the manipulation, the instrumentalization of finance of the media, who today no longer speak in their languages, they are at home, they speak in our languages. Why don't they invest in our public institutions to inform us? But they invest in their own institutions. So I don't say all the media, but today some medias of this neo-colonial system are tools of perpetuation of system and have even weapons of mass destruction. And I want to make the link because the media in connection with terrorism amplifies this element of weapons. Because today, terrorism, we must not cover our faces. They have tried to make us believe that terrorism comes from Muslim extremists or other extremists. We in the Sahel, especially in Mali, terrorism is manufactured. It is often supported by colonial powers. Because terrorism, we must not forget, is a political instrument of destabilization, often of regime change. And today, the media, one of the French media recently, has become an office for terrorists who give the floor to terrorist groups, who show their clear alliance with terrorist groups. And the objective that is thought is to subject the subjugation of domination of our countries. They have left to stay. In many of our countries, we have the French, the currency, but it's a neo-colonial currency. Even the name, it was at the time the franc of the French colonies of Africa. And now it has become the francs of the African financial community. But it has left to stay, it have left to stay better, and today our countries are controlled because of this. Mali, for example, has been sanctioned because we belong to the Central Bank of the States of East Africa, which is our regional bank, which is used by foreign powers to punish our population. So colonialism is not a subject of yesterday. It is a subject of today. It is still alive, unfortunately. I will just try to take two or three tools of perpetuation of the colonial system. First, through international institutions, starting with the United Nations. Unfortunately, for example, the fact that there are statues of feather bearers, but still exist at the level of the United Nations, is a preparation of colonial practice that puts the former French colonies under France and the former English colonies under Great Britain. for an organization that is supposed to defend us, the people? It is really a big question for our countries. And Mali denounced and refused the system of having a feather bearer because we went to school, we can hold our feathers ourselves. We have a voice. Mali will now speak for itself on the international scene. We do not need a feather bearer. The second system of perpetuation is the same as the system of sanctions that exists at the level of the United Nations. We took an example. In Mali, there was a regime of sanctions for the application of the peace agreement, and it was one of the means that was also used to subjugate us. When the government and the Malian population asked to lift this regime of sanctions, unfortunately, it was not done. Only Russia put its feet down. Unfortunately, our African brothers who are sitting in the Security Council voted in the direction of the former colonial power wanted. It is a great disappointment. Today, the international financial institutions, the IMF and the World Bank, are also used to perpetuate the system of dominance. Today, the World Bank, the funds, refuses financing to Mali because of our political choices, because there are the powers that are behind to try to subjugate us and closer to us in our region. Unfortunately, the ECOWAS, our original organization that we have left, is in the hands of these powers to achieve the same objectives. So I think that all this is really sanctions against countries like Mali, even against Niger. We wanted to organize military interventions to please these powers. Now, in the face of all this situation, we thought it was important to get out of this dynamic and to propose a new alternative that allow us to get out of this colonial, neocolonial dominance. That is why Mali, Burkina Faso, and Niger decided to set up the Confederation of the States of Sahel, which is an alternative model of integration, a model that is controlled by an African leadership whose function is ensured by ourselves at the limit of the means that we have. To be able to provide our response to this and to ensure that we can assert our sovereignty by our own means. I believe that the security of Mali, Burkina Faso, and Niger is ensured by our own armies, by our own names. For 10 years, we have waited for help from the outside world, but it was in a scenario of dependence that did not put us in the capacity to assume our security. I think that this is a new model in which we think that our organization should, because we, who finance pays, unfortunately. Most of our organizations, their function is financed by the outside world. With the Confederation of the States of Sahel, we have put in place a new model. First of all, it is a confederation. It is not an organization as such as that works one for security, two for concerned diplomatic actions, and three for development. The project is to create a harmonious space between our populations. We can work to ensure our security autonomy, but even our autonomy is in terms of development and also to ensure that from now on we will not take our instructions from Paris or Washington or elsewhere. We want respectful partnerships, sincere partnerships, winning partnerships. But we are no longer in a dynamic of being under the control of people. Some even say, but why are you going to Russia, leaving a master to go to another master? We said, but you are wrong. This is why I started by saying that no, Russia is not a old colonial power. It is not a colonial power. But this requires a mental decolonization in each of us. To understand that these colonial imperialist policies must cease, they are there and they want to impose themselves, including by force, including by terrorism if necessary. So I think that these elements must be there, and we must propose new alternatives and in our countries, new responses on the economic level, autonomous, generating internal resources, create capacity, but it all starts with the mental. We must first say that we must get out of this old system to do what we must to do in the interest of our own populations without being afraid of such power that will perpetuate its in their interest. These powers will continue because they live from it. It is up to us to do what is good for our populations and to be able to assume that this colonialism, unfortunately, is not a thing of the past. It is there. It has subtle forms, extremely dangerous forms, and even perfidious in many of our systems. We must all be aware of this, and we salute the resolution that was adopted with this leadership of Russia. So, guys, that's the end of it. Do you understand the reason why we need to have our own leaders control our own institutes? Because the United Nations, the African Union, they're all used as tools to control African countries to keep them under wraps. So that's why he's saying with the AES Confederation, which means they are a group. There was no one power, I can say, take any drastic decisions like make a 100% canvas. No, it's a collaborative effort, and he said that it's ruled by African leaders. There's no outside influence. There's no outside money. There's no external forces paying for anything. And that's key. When they don't have any external forces paying for anything, they cannot manipulate and use you or try to coerce you into doing what they don't want to. And this is why ECOWAS needs to go, UN, the African nation, and we need to form this expand the AES Sahel Nations Confederation. Why? We cannot let anyone in because there have to be a strict there's a strict vetting process to get to join the AES group. But once it's garnered more members, it's gonna be a way to have a united Africa, one army. Anyway, let me know what you think about this in the comment section. As always, I don't know. My name is Stefan. Thanks for watching. Boom.